So of course, incorporating both a civil and a religious ceremony, we will have 3 sons that are here to recite the Mourner's Kaddish. And when we recite Mourner's Kaddish, it's not really a prayer about death at all. It's about glorifying God's name. They're recognizing that whatever we do here in this world is for a greater purpose. And I know that it was just a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I had the privilege to be at the bris of Abram, which is a great-grandson, knowing that everybody's following a tradition of service and commitment and Judaism and America, which is a great thing. So we'll have 3 brothers now. We'll recite the Mourner's Kaddish, followed by the memorial prayer. Amen.
I lost my place.
Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Omei Omaya. Yisbarach, V'yishabach, V'yitraman, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yithalel, Shmei Shosha B'richu, La'ela Mimko Birchata V'shirata, Tushvachata V'nekemata, Damiram V'yama V'yimru. Amen. Yehei Shmama Rabbah Min Shemayim, V'chayim Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. Oseh Shalom B'imrama, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu V'yal Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. El Molei Rachamim Shochem B'meromim Hamitzei Menucha Nechona Kanfei HaShechina B'ma'alos Kedoshim et Yehorim Kizoar Arak Yamasirim Es Nishmas Shmuel ben Zelag HaKohen v'Rivka Shalach li'olamo B'Gan Eden Tehei menuchaso Ana Ba'al HaRachamim Hasirei b'seizig anavecha li'olamim Utzror b'tzara chaim es nishmaso Adonai hu nachalaso V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo V'nomar amen. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant proper rest beneath the shelter of the divine presence among the holy and the pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament, to the soul of Stanley Katz, who has gone to his eternal home, and for whose memory we pray. May Hashem, the God of mercy, shelter him forever under the wings of thy presence. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life, and grant that the memory of his life inspire us always to be noble and consecrated in our living. Let us all say together, Amen. Before we take leave, and of course it wouldn't be a Jewish affair if there wasn't food afterwards, so everyone's invited to the Hollywood Club afterwards for a brunch. But before, and this is always what happens whenever we visit the cemetery, we have a wonderful, beautiful Jewish custom, which some people might seem odd to some. And if you look around on some of the stones, you see that on the larger matzevot, on the larger stones, you find smaller stones on top of it. And the custom is that whenever we visit a gravesite, whether it's before Rosh Hashanah, whether it's before a yard site, whether it's before a family simcha, we take a smaller stone and we place it on top of the larger stone. A couple of reasons, and one I want to share with you, is that in Hebrew, the word for stone is even. Even, Aleph, Beis, Nun. And it's actually a combination of 2 words, Av and Ben, father and son. And when you place the stone, you say that even though our earthly existence is no longer, but the combination of father and son, the unification and the togetherness of father and son can never ever be broken. But also maybe this is appropriate for those who here might be in the building business, might be 1 or 2. But we all want our children to outshine us. We all want our children to accomplish more than we have. We give them everything that we have, and we want them to do better than we did. And therefore, even though we have a permanent stone, our parents will never mind that we put a little something on top of that. We add a little bit more. We add another chapter. We add another floor. We add another story. Because our story that we build is really their story. So before we take leave again, I thank everyone for coming out today and for being punctual also. That's very important to us. But we thank everyone for paying tribute to Stanley, but also to all those who serve our country. And before you leave, please take the stones that are located here, place one on top. Because you know, at night, by the way, they all look at each other and they said, well, how many visitors did you get? So by the end of today, that's why they have one of these big ones here. Everybody's going to have a lot, so let's do them justice. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to Hollywood. A few announcements. Anyone who would like a napkin, There's a $3 charge outside. They're rented. And, we can make arrangements, but they are nice. So, firstly, I wish to thank several people for making this day possible. But before that, birthday greetings to our dear friend Sharon Drosnin. And anniversary greetings to our dear friends Patty and Elliot. Rabbi could not come to the luncheon, but as I said at the cemetery, he's been a good friend of our family, and he was most gracious to lend both his support and spiritual guidance. I want to thank the talented Stacy Baumer, Casey Baumer, and Debbie Wecker of Imagine Party. They've created beautiful parties and events at incredible venues, most recently the Super Bowl in Minneapolis. When I called them and asked if they had ever done a cemetery, they said no, but there's a first time for everything. And I think that after today, they may be getting many more cemetery bookings. To Salil and the staff at Hollywood, thank you for the care that you took to put this beautiful luncheon together. Hollywood has always been a very special place for my parents and our family. It is most fitting that this tribute to my dad is being held here. And lastly, to Ruth. When I came up with the idea of this day, Ruth's first reaction was, great, good luck and go knock yourself out. Which I did. But then without telling me, Ruth put her heart into every aspect of this day, and it reflects in the love, respect, and affection that she always had both for my mom and my dad. And I'd like Ruth to stand. I'd like my daughter Hillary, my daughter Michelle, my daughter Stephanie, my son-in-law Jeffrey, and my son-in-law Ryan. All right, that's enough. And I'd like my brother Richard and from Florida and my brother Robert from Minneapolis to stand. We have a third brother. We keep him in the closet. You know, he's going to see this on video. I did not mean that, Jonathan. Our youngest brother is away with his wife, Marcia, on what's a very special birthday for her, and they are here with us in spirit. I spoke to them last night, and we love them very much. And special greetings to the great-grandchildren of Stanley Katz, Alexandra, Harrison, Ariella, Mia, and Abram. They could not break away from their busy schedules, but they will be watching this one day on video. I'd like to introduce Richard J. Cody, our governor and state senator. Throughout a career in state government that spanned more than 4 decades, Richard Cody has been regarded by his colleagues and constituents as an independent thinker and a champion of change to benefit the public good. Senator Cody began his career in state government in 1973 when he was elected to the Assembly at the age of 26. Some of you, if you do the math, you'll figure out how old he is today. He served 4 terms before being elected to the New Jersey Senate in 1981, representing the 27th Legislative District in Essex County, where many of us in this room reside. Senator Cody was elected president of the Senate in 2004 and served in that position until 2009. When Governor James McGreevey resigned before his term expired, Richard Cody became the 53rd governor of New Jersey in November 2004 under a provision in the New Jersey State Constitution which provided for the Senate President to simultaneously assume the powers and responsibilities of the office of governor. during a vacancy. As governor, Dick Cody was at the forefront to bring the struggles of the mentally ill to the public's attention. During his tenure, he created a mental health task force.
This isn't a political event?
It may be. And he implemented changes creating dramatic improvements in our state's mental health system. He and his wife, Mary Jo, launched a statewide postpartum depression awareness campaign. He's been a vocal public health advocate, signing landmark legislation regarding the Free Air Act, raising the age of tobacco purchases to 19 and now most recently to 21, a champion of stem cell research, and he's also been involved with legislation to better protect student athletes from the sustained health effects of brain and head injuries and concussions. He has sponsored laws to make communities and schools safer, our first assault weapons ban, and the first child-proof handgun law. One law that I'm grateful he sponsored is the one making it a primary offense for drivers to talk or text on a mobile phone without a hands-free device.
Nobody breaks that law in here, right?
Not at all. And personally, I wish there were legislation that would mandate that a driver's phone would not permit texting while the vehicle's moving, because I could use that. In 2014, Senator Cody became the longest-serving legislator in New Jersey history. He's the author of Me Governor, a book which is both laugh out loud, funny, informative, and poignant. When not working 24/7 for the citizens of New Jersey, he enjoys spending time with his family, coaching his sixth grade traveling basketball team, and watching his beloved Seton Hall Pirates. Please welcome my good friend and our good friend, Richard J. Cody.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a great occasion. By the way, Steve, am I allowed one story? Okay. So, by the way, I was born and raised in my parents' funeral home. We lived next to the rectory, the convent, the school, the church, the cemetery. We were all in Catholic. So, and by the way, I have a sister who's a nun. So I must tell you a story. It's about the nun in the back of the cab. So they're driving along, and the driver says to her sister, "Could I say something to you?" She said, "Sure, what's that?" He says, "I've always had an obsession about getting a kiss from a nun." She doesn't respond. A little while longer, his driver, "Can you answer some questions for me?" "Sure, sister, what are those?" "Are you single?" "Oh, yes, sister, I sure am." "Okay. Are you Catholic?" "Oh, yes, sister, I sure am." They continue to drive. See, driver, pull over to the side of the road. She gets out of the back into the front, gives him a wild, passionate kiss. No words are exchanged. She gets back in the back. They're driving along. "Sister, could I say something to you?" "Sure, what's that?" "Well, my conscience is bothering me." "Why?" "Well, you know, you asked me if I was single. I said yes. I lied. I'm married. You asked me if I was Catholic. I said yes. I lied. I'm Jewish." She says, "Don't worry about that. I'm on my way to a costume party, and my first name is Larry." So you never know in life. You never, ever know. But you know what I think about today is, more than anything, remembering someone who was so good to his country and his family. It's about love of his children for him. Isn't that great? In today's society, where so many of our other generations now are moving away from where they're born and raised. I'm fortunate, to be honest with you. My one son's in South Orange. My other son, who just had our first grandchild, is right down the block from me. And I love that. I want to see families stay together. I'm about to start a big initiative on teenage suicide. It's up 70% in America. Worldwide, the biggest killer of teenagers. Listen, I've been tens of thousands of funerals as an employee of my dad or whatever. There was I never saw a teenage suicide. Never happened. One of the things the experts are telling me is, we don't go, our children, my children don't go to church like I did. Maybe your children don't go to temple like you did. They lose that support system, and that's big. It's big. It's really big. So, Mr. Katz, all of you, God love you for loving your father like you did. Who's a mayor? That ain't easy. You know, if there was a problem on the streets, they ain't calling the governor. I mean, it is what it is. And for all he did and what he produced in terms of children, grandchildren, and everything else, that's a great legacy in life, a tremendous legacy in life. And to come here and honor your dad this way, to remember him, God love you. What I have for you, Steve, I'm going to give it to you and your brothers, a resolution passed by the Senate. All parties voted for it. Don't worry about it. I didn't tell him he's a big Democrat. But Steve, if you could come up here. I want to give this to you, Steve. This honors his father with this resolution that we passed in the Senate.
Oh, great.
All right?
Thanks.
Thank you. Listen, I'll leave you with one thing. I always like to tell people, the 3 best words in the English language, if you use them at the appropriate time, Steve, and I say this very sincerely, please, thanks, and sorry. If you use them with your immediate family, your extended family, and your friends, your co-workers, you'll be a great person. God love you for having me here.
Governor, of those 3 words, please, thank you, and sorry, in my household of 3 girls, a wife, and our housekeeper of 30 years, sorry is the only word I ever say. I was remiss when I was introducing my brothers and my immediate family that my mother's only cousin, who is here and was at my parents' wedding, is here. My dear cousin Kelly Marks. Many of you may have bought Kelly's milk. He is the original milkman. And my cousin Susie. In the back, Susie. That's my parents' my mother's sister's daughter, which makes her my first cousin, and my nephews from Florida, Michael and Jason. Their sister Jenna cannot be with us, and Michael and Jason are leaving soon to. You're running the NFL draft tonight?
Yeah, we're going to have Mark Will draft our players. So we don't have to stress out. Yeah, thanks, Mark.
So, how did we get here today? Last summer, I embarked on a journey. Many of you know that I have several collections and interests: autographed baseballs, political memorabilia, photography, and boxing. I thought, why not have my baseball collection, boxing memorabilia, professionally photographed? So I categorized over 200 baseballs, 100 plus prize fights that I've attended. And then I engaged a ghostwriter. And I began spending my precious little free time writing a book. But during the process, I realized that the book needs to be more than just pictures of autographed baseballs and lists of boxing matches and venues. So I quickly switched gears, and now I'm knee-deep into my childhood, my family, my Judaism. The baseballs and boxings were relegated to the later chapters. I began culling through mountains of papers, documents, and memorabilia. You may know that I save everything. Years ago, I was cleaning out our basement, and I put out all of my law school papers in the garbage. And at 4 a.m., I went out to the curb and brought them back in. How would I ever forgive myself if I became a Supreme Court nominee and did not have these documents? I must have inherited this disease called hoarding from my parents. In our attic, we had every Life magazine ever published. And I'm surprised that the living room ceiling never caved in. In our basement, Ruth and I have boxes and boxes of my parents' personal effects. That's what happens when you have 3 other brothers who live in Arizona, Minnesota, and Florida.